Before we start today's episode, I want to ask you a question. When was the last time someone asked you how you were doing? And you told them the truth. Not, I'm good. Not, I'm all right. Not, I'm just tired. I mean the truth. Because the reality is there are a lot of men walking around carrying stress, trauma, heartbreak, financial pressure, grief, loneliness, anxiety, and depression, all behind a smile. We're showing up for work, showing up for our families, showing up for our communities, for our church, for everyone else. But when no one's looking, we're exhausted. And while social media tells us to live a life of peace, soft life, peace life, define purpose, but remind yourself to do a bit of self-care. Many men are wondering, can I afford to have some alone time, some time to myself, some soft time can I afford to be soft when people need and depend on me? Can I prioritize my health, my mental health, without abandoning my responsibilities as a man? And can I heal while still pursuing my overall purpose? Today we're going to be talking about Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, the pressures men carry, and whether the soft life is helping us heal or helping us hide. So let's get ready to have a real conversation. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Outreach with Reggie. I'm your host, Reggie Holloway. And if this is your first time listening, welcome. And if you're a returning listener, thank you for continuing to be a part of this community. Outreach with Reggie exists to create meaningful conversations around leadership, community, faith, advocacy, personal growth, and mental health, along with the many issues impacting our lives every day. And today we're going to be talking about something that affects millions of people but still doesn't get discussed enough. And that's men's mental health. As you know, June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. And honestly, this conversation couldn't come at a better time. We live in a culture where men are expected to be strong, expected to perform, to provide, to push through, and to have all the answers. Yet many men are struggling emotionally, both emotionally, along with mentally, spiritually, and even financially. At the same time, social media has introduced us to this idea called the soft life. Protect your peace, set boundaries, choose yourself, rest, slow down, avoid unnecessary stress, stop. Some people see it as healing, while others see it as avoidance. So today I want us to impact both conversations. What is mental health? What challenges mental health? What challenges men's mental health? And why are these conversations difficult? And ultimately, can a soft life coexist with a purpose-driven life? So let's get into it within our first segment. And that is, what is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month? And before we go any further, let's establish some context to today's episode. And that is, June is recognized as Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, with the purpose being to bring attention to the emotional, psychological, and social challenges that many men face while encouraging conversations around mental wellness and suicide prevention. The reason awareness matters is because men often struggle in silence. Many men are taught how to express emotions, but what emotions are they taught to express? Many men aren't taught how to ask for help. Many aren't taught how to recognize when they're struggling. Instead, they're taught how to endure. And while endurance has value, endurance without healing becomes a very dangerous place to be in. Awareness creates opportunity for those to have conversations, for conversations to be had, education to be had, healing to be there. And that's why we're here today. And that's what Mental Health Awareness Month, Men's Mental Health Awareness Month is about. So if you have a group of friends, I encourage you, I implore you to at least open the door for that conversation to be had, for the capacity to be there. Regarding just simply asking or diving deeper within where you are mentally and allowing that space to be open for more conversation to be had of what didn't go right, what goal wasn't reached, what thing fell through, and allow that to be a seed to talk more about healing amongst men. So as we move into the next segment, many of you heard what mental health is about just through social media and the talk about mental health that we express on this platform. But within this next segment, we must break down what exactly is mental health. So that's what we'll do. And I feel like a better way to explain what mental health is in its full entirety, mental health isn't just when things go wrong, right? Mental health isn't just about depression. It's not just about anxiety or what diagnoses tell you what mental health is. The diagnosis of, oh, you just have depression or sadness or, ADHD or whatever the diagnosis may say. Mental health affects how we think, feel, communicate, and how we process stress. It's also how we respond to conflict, how we view ourselves, the conflict, the fight that you have within you and amongst others, how you project to the world and how you receive the world back to you. That's the power of mental health. It's how we build relationships and how we tend to end things. Everybody has mental health. The question isn't whether you have mental health. The question is whether you're taking care of it. It's just like physical therapy. It's just like physical health, rather. It requires maintenance. So does mental health. It's like when you have a car and you eventually see like, oh, I should probably check on the tire pressure. I should probably get an oil change soon. But you ignore it because you feel like it's minor or you feel like it's just inconvenience for the time being. But then one thing goes left. You didn't check the tire pressure, so now the tire's popped. The oil change doesn't happen, but other things come up. Service light comes on. And then a trouble seed blossoms into a problem tree, and before you know it, you're in a garden of regret. Eventually, it catches up to you because you can't ignore your emotional well-being forever and expect nothing to happen. And for many men, that's exactly what happens. You eventually put everything to the side. Don't say that thing that needs to be said. You don't do that thing that needs to be done. And before you know it, you're suppressing. You're suppressing your emotions, your feelings, your words, in just like a steaming pot, boiling. Oh, the top may not pop off here, but boy, oh boy, it may pop up somewhere that is unexpected and unintentional, and you won't be able to stop it. Before we get further into that, I kind of tap into where it starts. And that's what we'll talk about in this part here. And that is, it is a generational thing. This isn't, contrary to belief, this isn't something that is just now it's not a new epidemic. It's just the first time in this generation that we're talking about it, and we're choosing to talk about it. And we have the capacity to talk about it because it is generational. It starts in childhood from the things that you see and the experiences that you have, of course. It goes right from when you watch your favorite cartoon and movie as a kid. Pay close attention to the cartoons you watched, and the TV shows you watched, the movies, right? Action heroes, superheroes, not only the movies that you watched and music you listened to, but pay attention to the characteristics of what came with it. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but just really pay close attention. For instance, for me, I am a big avid wrestling fan. I've been that way since I want to say 8. And at that time, they were very muscular, tall, and aggressive. And the hero was always viewed as strong, always strong. Even in defeat, they were strong. They have to be strong. And that's very important. Perseverance, endurance, right? But you never really saw them cry. They never really talked about their mental health because they had to figure out how to push through. And that's very important. I know I got a bit off track there for a little bit, but as I talk about that, right, as we pay attention to what we digested within our childhood early into now, even in our environments, I remember this thing called boys will be boys. That was always what was expressed. The boys will be boys era. Many men grew up hearing, man up, boys don't cry, stop being emotional, toughen up, handle it yourself. For generations, even when I was coming up, many generations, boys were conditioned to believe that emotions are weaknesses, that vulnerability was dangerous, that asking for help was a failure. But here's the truth, within everything I just expressed, emotions aren't weaknesses, they're indicators. Indicators, just like physical pain when you're on the football field, tackled, when you're on a basketball court and you get a sprained ankle. They're indicators, just like physical pain tells us something is wrong physically, emotional pain tells us something needs attention emotionally. And unfortunately, many men never learned emotional regulation. They learned emotional suppression. And there's a difference. So let's talk about regulation versus suppression. Regulation versus suppression. Emotional regulation teaches us or tells us that to identify what we are feeling. And for many men in general, they're able to identify things in the moment of anger. Anger where they're supremely focused. I know for me, it took a while. But I know when I'm angry. I know when I'm upset. I know when, like, man, I'm tired from a long day of work. But what was always confusing was like, and it took some time in therapy to realize this, but when I'm happy, what does happiness even look like, you know? How do we decide it? But identifying those emotions and being able to have the capacity to feel, to express, when you are feeling these things and knowing 3-4 steps ahead to stay calm and take time to really process what you're going through, no matter the way the pendulum swings regarding your emotions. And giving yourself the capacity to feel. That's the daring thing. The daring thing to do for yourself. And the most beautiful reward to give to yourself is to know how to regulate versus suppression. Emotional suppression is where you hold it in because you can't do it then. It's more like convenience. It's like right now, I can't express my emotions right now because of where I'm at, because the roles I have, because the things I need to do right now, my emotions, I have to put it into the side. A lot of the time it shows up in business. Oftentimes where you're disrespected, yelled at, because you're not doing things quite to the standard that's required. And instead of saying, man, I really don't like how they talked to me, I really am not a fan of what they said to me, but I need this job and I need this money. So I'll hold it in. But it shows up somewhere else unintentionally. And when that happens, it happens to be towards people or in spaces that had nothing to do with where the origin of those emotions came. And suppressed emotions eventually show up somewhere. They show up as anger, frustration of not being able to say what you really wanted to say. And addiction becomes an open door to many addictions. And if you haven't heard my episode on addictions, please listen to it. Give it a listen because I tap into why or how people fall quickly into addictions and the normalizations of it. But it becomes an open door to the addiction, to many things: drinking, gambling, behaviorally, gaming, etc. Isolation. You just need time to be by yourself so you can process what's happening or what you've been holding on to. Or eventually you just keep holding on until it turns into burnout, depression, self-sabotage, broken relationships. The emotion doesn't disappear, it simply just changes forms into something else. So that's what I mean by suppression versus regulation, and regulation versus suppression. So let's talk about what the roles a lot of men tend to carry. And many men are carrying a lot. For my fathers out there, I know yesterday was Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to many men out there. Single fathers, fathers who show up, married, stepfathers, mentors, whoever you are to the people that you serve. Shout out to you. But many men carry a lot. Provider, protector. Oh, also for many men who are behind bars too. Shouts out to you, fathers who are behind bars. But yes, many men carry a lot. A provider, protector, a leader, a father, husband, brother, friend, employee, business owner, mentor, community member, faith leader, and each role within all that we've expressed here comes with expectations. Some of those expectations come from society. Some come from family. Some come from ourselves. But pressure accumulates over time. And eventually, many men feel like they're carrying the weight of everyone else's expectations while neglecting their own needs. And I know There are listeners right now who feel extremely exhausted. Not because they're lazy, not because they don't care, but because they're carrying entirely too much, and nobody knows. And nobody asked the question. Because as I said before, many moons ago, no one questions how the leader is doing mentally. No one questions the friend, the family member, whoever you are to someone in this world. No one will ever question how they're doing mentally because they know that they can depend on them to do a very good job on the roles that they have. And they've done it with such excellence that it just feels like it's effortless. But I challenge you, if you know someone like that, to ask them and even push to ask again, are you okay? And I think many of us can relate to seasons where we felt overwhelmed. Maybe it was grief, maybe it was heartbreak, maybe it was financial uncertainty, maybe it was trying to figure out your purpose. Maybe it was feeling like everybody expected something from you while you were struggling yourself. The hardest part isn't always the struggle, though. The hardest part is pretending you're okay while you're struggling. And that's why these conversations matter. Because the fear is also, you don't want to appear as a Debbie Downer. You don't want to appear as someone who's always going through something, always sad, always upset, always angry. Especially as a black man like myself, always being like the angry black man. Like, there's a real fear. But I would challenge you, my friend, to kind of push the capacity of the environments. And don't be afraid to be that angry black man. Don't be afraid to be that person that's because there should be nothing that holds you from having a conversation or simply saying, hey, I need help too, regardless of how strong you think I am. So as I speak about the stereotype of the angry black man, I want to talk about, within this next topic, black men and mental health. Now let's talk specifically about it right now, because there are unique challenges that deserve attention. Many black men grow up learning that survival is strength. Be strong, don't complain, keep pushing, handling, figuring out, just overall how to be resilient. And while resilience is important and it's the constant need to push through, to persevere, to work hard, to be where you want to be or what you would identify as success. Constant resilience can be very exhausting. Society often leaves very little room for black men to be vulnerable. And while the expectation to be strong all of the time is there, no one can be strong all of the time. I was telling my one of my dear friends this the other day. Imagine having to be strong, to be tough 24/7. Who gets the soft part of you? Who gets the comfort part of you? Who gets to be able to embrace you as you, not the person that you've had to be to get where you are, but if you take the mask off, if you strip away the titles, who are you? Who are you when you don't have to be tough anymore? When you don't have to survive anymore? And I ask this question constantly because strength without support becomes isolation. Because then no one gets the real you. And everyone gets the man that you've had to be through, no matter if it's been trauma, no matter if it's been sacrifice, or just having to persevere or run towards your goals. It's very important to have goals. But like a plant, if you're not watered, if you're not watered, you'll quickly run dry. And it can feel very isolating. Strength without healing could become very suffering. Because many black men today don't fear vulnerability. They fear judgment. They fear being misunderstood, being viewed differently. And oftentimes enough, to say the ugly thing, for it to be flipped back on us. And today's episode is definitely not red pill, or I'm not trying to say anything anti-woman, not in the slightest. If anything, this is to highlight what many men face in silence. And trust me, I'm going to have the same topic. We're going to cover the same topic within how women feel too, because that matters. But many suffer in silence because of not wanting it to be flipped back on us. And we have to change that. But before we can continue, I want to ask you something. Actually, I want you to ask yourself something. What are you carrying that you haven't talked about? What is that one thing that you are carrying that you haven't talked about? And what are you pretending that doesn't bother you? That definitely does bother you. What conversations are you avoiding right now? What pain are you attempting to minimize? And who can you trust to be honest with these feelings? And as you think about that and reflect upon that, I genuinely want you to ask yourself these questions. What are you carrying that you haven't talked about? What are you pretending that doesn't bother you? What conversations are you avoiding? And what pain are you minimizing? And who can you trust enough to be honest with? Because healing begins where honesty starts. So let's get into the soft life movement. Soft life, peace. I know this is more so popularized with women, but let's talk about the phrase that seems to be everywhere. Not as much now as it was when I had the idea for this episode, so bear with me. The soft life. For many people, the soft life means choosing peace, protecting your energy, setting boundaries, prioritizing self-care, along with avoiding unnecessary drama. It's seeking joy. And honestly, there are healthy aspects to that. Peace is healthy, and it's very good. Rest is healthy, and it's very necessary. Boundaries are healthy. Therapy is healthy. Healing is healthy. But the problem, as healthy as it is, the problem occurs when softness becomes avoidance. When softness becomes an excuse to avoid growth, to avoid accountability, to avoid a difficult conversation, and to avoid responsibility. That's where we have to be careful. But there's a thing that I'm going to talk about much later as we move into our next segment. And that is, many of you are soft. And I don't say that in a derogatory way, but I say that more so as there's an alarm going off, but that's fine. Many of you are soft. Many of you have peace. Many of you are very peaceful. And as I say that last comment, we've weaponized with the word soft. Soft, think about it. Delicate. Is it warm, soft, gentle? All of these things. The synonyms that go with soft, along with the word soft. It's been weaponized. And why is that? But yes, some of you are soft by nature. Not because it's bad. Some of you want to be soft, and that's not bad either. And when I say want to, you're wanting peace. I'm not calling you these things because I feel like you're a chump. But no, I say these things because we have to understand, as I said before, peace, rest, boundaries. You want to feel the weight leave. And there's an expression that comes to mind. I get it from Dave Chappelle, and he says, sometimes you have to be the lion to be the lamb that you really are. And sometimes we put on the mask of being a lion, prideful, bold, to really find the peace that you're looking for, the peace that we're looking for, the rest that we're looking for, the healing that we're looking for. So yes, you are soft. And it's cool to be soft. Be soft. Be soft, brother. Be soft. And make it a goal to be soft. Find peace. Find rest. Find healing. And like I said, we regulate to what that means for you. It's not weakness. Softness is not weak. It's simply putting the weight down for a little bit. But that brings me to my next segment, rest versus responsibility. And here's something I believe even within that last statement. Rest is not laziness. Rest is stewardship. It's preparing how you show up in the world as you're working on being soft, because you are soft. Be soft. It's also preparation for when you have to go out into the world and be leaders. Be good stewards. Be a good contributor to your neighbor and to your community. To advocate, to speak, to inspire. Rest is preparation for the next thing. Rest is recovery. Even God rested. As we know, the seventh day he rested. But rest was never designed to replace responsibility. Because you still have to get up, you still have to go, you still have to work, you still have goals, dreams, desires, and all of these things to chase. And I implore you to chase them. But the purpose of rest is to prepare you to return stronger, not to disappear, not to quit, not to abandon your calling, nor to abandon the people, not nor to abandon the people that call on you. A healthy life requires both rest and responsibility. Neither should dominate your life at all. Don't be too resting, but don't allow your responsibilities to swallow you whole either. And as I talk about that, here's one of my favorite things to talk about, which is escapism versus healing. Escapism versus healing. Healing and escapism can look very similar on surface. Both involve stepping back a bit. Both involve slowing the pace down. But they are very different. Healing says, I need to address this right now. Escapism says, I don't want to think about this. Similar to when we talk about suppression versus regulation, but I feel like this one hits more clearly. Healing requires an honest outlook, introspective approach to what you're going through, while escapism avoids honesty. Healing creates freedom. Escapism creates delay. And the question that poses itself isn't whether you're resting. The question is your resting helping you heal or helping you hide? Which brings me to my next point. Is softness a privilege? Because imagine how, as a man, as I like to dissect things several times, and quotes have been my favorite things thus far. I remember hearing something from Michael Beasley, and he said, imagine if tomorrow was something that we had to work to get towards, right? How many people would get there? This is a conversation worth having because not everyone has the same opportunities to rest, because the responsibilities are just too high. Not everyone can take off time. Being a father, being a husband does require a lot out of you. And no matter how much, depending on how many more responsibilities that come off that, you may have only enough time to go to sleep. And even then, that's a privilege. But not everyone could take off time. And not everyone could afford therapy. Not everyone can leave a stressful environment because you have bills and just the overall cost of living. So in some ways, certain aspects of softness can feel like privilege. But healing should never be a privilege at all. Healing should never be a privilege. Every person deserves support, community, compassion, and rest. Hope, healthy relationships. Softness doesn't mean luxury, although we've produced it or presented it as such. Sometimes softness looks like saying no, going for a walk, getting enough sleep at night, talking to somebody, praying, and overall giving the worries that you have onto God, setting boundaries. Those things are available to more people than we often realize. But the presentation of what we made softness to be as a privilege and as a weakness, I challenge you to maybe change the lens on those glasses you have that you're looking out of to see what softness is. So as we talk about that, here are a few healthy coping mechanisms that we can take down, that we can share. Exercise. Many men find their safe space, their healthy space, to be the gym. exercise, prayer. As a man of myself, I do enjoy praying and giving all the worries and stresses I have to God. Journaling, write it down. As you write down your goals, but write down the things that's hurting you, that's concerning you, the things that's on your mind, because they could tend to fester. Therapy. There are free and low cost healthcare options for you to obtain therapy. Mentorship, support groups, creative expression, community, reading, reflecting. The goal isn't perfection, the goal is awareness. And as I'm aware, no matter what you're listening on, where you're listening on, where you're listening from, if you have access to a phone, if you have access to internet, technology, right? Take that time to at least 5 minutes a day. Read, pray, write, do something for 5 minutes a day on being mindful about where you are and where you're going. Healthy coping does not remove problems. It just helps us navigate them. But as we talk about safe space, I believe every man needs a safe space, a place where he doesn't have to perform, a place where he doesn't have to pretend, a place where he could be honest. But overall, that safe space might be a therapist, a pastor, a mentor, or even just a trusted friend, a support group, a family member. Because healing rarely happens in isolation. We need people. We need people. Everybody needs somebody. You can't do it alone. You shouldn't do it alone. And I will never advocate for anybody to do it alone. But here's the most important thing you may ask, or may be asking, or probably have asked, and I just missed it. But I'll answer it now. And that is, when should you ask for help? Because if you're constantly overwhelmed by that thing that keeps you up at night, if you're losing hope on that dream that seems very distant, far away, if you're emotionally exhausted from that thing that's hurting you, if you're struggling with anxiety or depression, and you're withdrawing from people, you're having thoughts of harming yourself, please reach out. Seeking help is not a weakness. It's wisdom. The strongest thing you can do, the most proudest, the most manliest thing you can do is acknowledge when you need support and ask for help. So, as we close today's conversation, I want to leave you with this. You don't have to choose between peace and purpose. You don't have to choose between strength and vulnerability. You don't have to choose between healing and responsibility. The goal isn't to become softer. The goal is to become healthier, because healthy men build healthy families. Healthy families build healthy communities, and healthy communities change the world. So before you leave this episode, I want to challenge you with 3 things today. First, check on yourself. Not the version of yourself you show everybody else, not what you put on that mask for the world to see, but the real version. The version that you hide. The version that you're afraid to show someone because you feel like they may use it against you. The real version. Be honest about where you are mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. Second, check on another man that you may know. Check on your friend, that husband, that father, that pastor, that therapist, that man who's a leader in his community, even your neighbor. Check on him, send him a text, make a call, invite someone to lunch, ask a deeper question, and push a second time to ask, how are you? Truly. Because you never know what someone is carrying. Third, take one action this week for your mental health. Schedule therapy, start journaling, go for a walk. Pray, talk to a trusted friend, set a boundary, do something, because awareness without action changes nothing. And if this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend, brother, father, son, mentor, pastor, coworker, or someone who needs this conversation. Leave a rating, leave a review, join the conversation online, and remember, you do not have to carry everything alone. This has been Outreach with Reggie. I'm your host, Reggie Holloway. And until next time, keep growing, keep healing, and keep reaching back to help someone else moving forward. God bless and take care.